guys, we are here for our third video for the Streets of New Capenna limited set review. We're going to be kicking it off with blue. If you missed our introduction or our white video, those are already posted, so make sure you guys go back and check those out. So we're going to be starting off with a little chat. And again, Yanks is on the call with us as always to discuss these cards with us. We're going to be doing that 1 to 5 scale as well. And you can find these in paper form in the next week or so. So a little chat is a 2-mana instant with casualty 1. It says, as you cast the spell, you may sacrifice a creature with power 1 or greater, and then copy this spell. If you missed the introduction, that's where we go over these new mechanics as well. Look at the top 2 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand and the other at the bottom of your library. So you can copy this if you can sacrifice a creature 1 or greater, which there are a fair amount of like little token generators, things like that. So that should be reasonably easy for you to like sacrifice a 1/1 citizen, make this happen twice, which is neat. But it is a little low impact for me, but the fact that it's instant helps a lot. What do you think, Yanks?
Yeah, we see this sort of card with 2 mana for 3 cards fairly often, but without the casualty bonus where you can actually get card advantage out of it. And they're always like right on the border of playable. This is probably a little better because it does have a much higher upside. But still, it's probably not much more than a 21st, 22nd, 23rd type card.
Yeah, I mean, if your deck can reliably make an excess of 1/1s, then I'm happy with this card. If it can't, I'm pretty not happy. I don't tend to like those sort of cantrip cards that just like dig 3, get 1 kind of things, and this is even worse than that. There's no synergy with putting cards in your graveyard like there would be if this was like draw 1, surveil 1, then you get a little bit more bonus of that way as well. If you could look at the top, scry one of them, like draw 1, scry one of them, put it on top, then that would be nice too. This kind of feels like, with the exception of it being instant, feels like it's mostly downside.
I don't know. I think the casualty, just having the possibility for this to be a 2-for-1 at some point is already more upside than you see on most of these cards.
Well, you do have to sacrifice a 1/1 at the worst, so it's not quite a 2-for-1 at that point, unless you have really free creatures.
Yeah, or it's trapped under an enchantment lockdown spell.
Yeah, that seems best case scenario for sure.
Oh, I agree. I'm only talking that it has higher upside. I don't. It's certainly best case scenario. I still don't think this card's great.
Yeah, I think this is gonna be one of my least favorite draw cards of the set so far, and I'm probably only really wanting this in like the Bant deck. I feel like that's where you're gonna make more 1/1 citizen decks.
Most likely, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if the Obscura Esper deck will have quite enough creatures, so I'm gonna give this a 2.
Yeah, I guess there's a good point chat's making that this is instant, so you can use it in response to removal as well.
Yeah, sort of a Village Rights-y type effect, but Village Rights you still get more than 1 card, right?
Well, you would get 2 cards if you used it in response to removal, because you get the 1 plus the 1 from the casualty.
That's what I'm saying, but Village Rights doesn't it usually get you 2 cards on its own regardless, so it's even more value than that, right?
If you cast this and sacrifice a creature targeted by removal, it's the exact same value as Village Rights, except you get to search.
Am I misremembering what Village Rights does?
Village Rights, you sack a creature, so it costs you the Village Rights and the creature, 2 cards to get to, and you've blanked the removal spell. Here you're going to get 2 cards, the 1 from the original spell plus the 1 from the casualty copy.
Yes. But what I'm saying is if you Village Rights in response to removal, you're getting, you know what I mean? So you're comparing Village Rights not in response to removal as opposed to...
I am. Either way, you're blanking the removal spell.
Yeah, but Village Rights is still better, right? You get an extra card?
No, you get 2 cards in this case.
Yes. For an additional mana.
For 1 additional mana, you get selection.
Sure. But then you have the flexibility of Village Rights to just always get you 2 cards. Right?
With the downside that you have to have something to sacrifice. You can cast this without having anything to sacrifice.
I suppose that's true, if you just want the 1-for-1. But even then, at that point, I still don't even know if it's worth playing.
No, I know. That's the downside to the card. Like when we say, a card always... Well, at least it can cycle. Like, that's the downside.
Well, you're saying the upside is that it's the same as this card... But the downside of the other card is that you have to have a creature, but this one you don't have to have a creature, but it's not worth playing if you don't have a creature. So it feels like it's kind of you're giving the one card the best case scenario, excluding the worst case scenario, and then the other one talking about the worst case scenario, and then saying that the other one is good for that. Even though you wouldn't want to play it, right? Am I crazy?
I'm very lost.
Well,
I think the best case scenario for both cards is close to the same. I think the best case scenario on this is better. I think the worst case scenario on this is better, but the worst case scenario is more likely to occur here.
Okay.
The worst case scenario in Village Rites is you literally can't play the card.
Yeah. In Village Rites decks, you tend to have an excess amount of sackable creatures. I don't know if that's the case in most blue decks. So I feel like very often we're not going to have the casualty option here. Unless exactly the one deck that poops out the little citizen tokens, then great. I feel like then you're going to get a reasonable amount of things for this. But for the most part, I think that will not be the case.
Yeah, I agree we are less likely to have the sacrifice fodder. I just think that, just like Village Rites, most often that came up, and the value you got off of that most of the time came up in response to removal, which is going to occur in any deck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but this is also harder to cast, right? Like, keeping the Village Rites open is easier.
Yeah, it's harder to cast, but it's a better result. You're paying 1 mana for slot 2 out of 4 instead of 2 out of 2.
Okay, I'm giving this 2. I think there's got to be better card draw in the set, so at least I certainly hope there is. We got the All-Seeing Arbiter, our first blue mythic, 6 mana flyer avatar that says, when All-Seeing Arbiter enters the battlefield or attacks, draw 2 cards, then discard a card. Okay, seems fine. Whenever you discard a card, target creature an opponent controls get -X/-O until end of turn, where X is the number of different mana values among cards in your graveyard. That's a very large flyer.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm viewing this as. It's a large flyer that replaces itself when it enters the battlefield, and then with some filtering.
Yeah.
The ability is nice because it is until your next turn, so it can stall like a big ground creature on the, if you were in like a racing scenario.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the fact that it draws you a card right away makes me pretty happy. This is like a 4/5 for me.
Yeah, agreed.
An offer you can't refuse. Great name for a gangster theme set. For 1 mana, you get an instant that says counter target non-creature spell. Its controller gains 2 treasures. This does not seem good for limited, certainly not in your main deck.
Yeah, this feels like a horrible limited card.
Yeah.
Being 1 mana is less important in limited than it is in constructed, and a lot of times you're going to have no targets, and giving them the 2 treasures can just be backbreaking.
Yeah, well, I'm less concerned about the 2 treasures, and I'm more concerned about I just don't like spells that say non-creature, because you're not always likely to find a good target for that. I would much rather counter only target creature spells, because it's always going to hit something. This is a sideboard option. This is going to be great for constructed gameplay, probably. But this is just not something I'm looking to play in limited at all, so I'm going to give it a 1.
Yeah, I think the part where the treasure tokens comes into play is normally I might be willing to run main deck this in sealed, like I would in negate a lot of times, but I don't want to be giving sealed decks that are probably playing 3 to 4 colors free fixing in this set.
All right, the next one, guys, is a Backstreet Bruiser, 2 mana for a 3/3 defender. It's a Cephalid rogue. Yes, bring the cephalids. As long as there are 2 or more counters among creatures you control, this can attack as though it didn't have defender. This seems fine. That's not super hard to get to.
No, we've seen a lot of these 2 mana 3/3 defenders in recent sets, and they tend to find a home just as a curve filler. Blue a lot of times doesn't have enough good 2-drops. And you're a lot of times playing defensively anyway, but the criteria to make this attack is way simpler than I think it's been in recent sets.
Yeah, I feel like blue is happy to just play this and trade it with just about anything, But I will say, I think that this is actually going to be a little bit better than it has been in those sets, because I think that this counter option is going to be much easier to hit than typical. And the reason for that is because of all of the shield counters. This is going to be great in that Bant deck, right?
Yeah.
There is also Elspeth in the format. I mean, this is obviously a mythic, but they give flying and haste counter, like all sorts of things, vigilance counters, shield counters, +1 counters. There's a lot of things in this set, I think, that's going to trigger this. And that's just, if the Elspeth is the only thing that has it, I suspect we're going to find more things that give those types of counters as well. 2/5, I think?
I think it's a 2/5.
All right, Broker's Veteran. We have a 2-mana, 2/1 human soldiers. When Broker's Veteran dies, put a shield counter on target creature you control. A 2/1. You know, there is a fair amount more 3/2s in the set, I believe, so this will actually probably trade reasonably well and then leaves a pretty lasting effect on the board. I like this well enough.
Yeah, card's fine. 2-mana, 2/1 that gives a little something when it dies. Yeah, I'm fine with this card.
It's not a citizen, which is sadness, but I think that's okay. What are you thinking score-wise? 2 or 2/5?
I think it's a 2. If you're in a deck that has all these counter synergies, then bump it up a little bit. But without them, it's just kind of there.
Agreed. 2 is what I had initially as well. Haste the Joint, great name. Blue has all the flavor names. 4 mana for an instant. Draw 2 cards, then look at the top card of each player's library. Instant speed. Now, I'm far more into this.
This card's good. I do think it's much worse than the 4 mana instant speed draw 2 stuff we've seen recently.
Yes. But if this is at common, I'm far happier with this than I am the little chat uncommon.
Oh, sure. Yeah, this is definitely better than that card. No argument there.
I like this at like a 3.
Yeah, I think so. 1 mana more than divination, but I think the instant speed alone makes up for that. And then looking at the top card is just, little free information.
Yeah, but it's both players' library, right? So you're getting to look at your own, you're getting to look at theirs. I think that's pretty solid. And getting to do it at instant speed is just amazing.
Yeah, I think the top card of your own library in a card like this is less relevant because a lot of times you're going to be playing this on their end step. So you're just going to see it as soon as you untap anyway. I
agree with that. Yeah, I think that the information on one side is not super duper relevant, but on both sides can be something. I think I would probably, even if it didn't say that, if it was just an extra mana for instant speed divination, I would pay that.
Yeah, I think I would be begrudgingly accepting of that card, but maybe just because we've seen so much better ones in recent times.
Yeah. All right, we have Cut Your Losses, a 6 mana sorcery, casualty 2. Target player mills half their library rounded down. So you can mill, 15 cards, and then you can mill another 7 cards, leaving them with, very few cards in their deck for the low cost of 6 mana and a 2/2. I mean, it's not very good, and we're gonna have to see if there are other mill things involved in the set, so you can get it started. But this is like a bounty card, I think.
Yeah, this is unless we find a bunch more mill things, this is a 1.
The funny thing is even if you do find other mill things, let's say you find those things first and then you get this, then this just becomes like a do nothing card kind of.
Then this is worse, yeah.
Yeah. You kind of have to draw this first, which you can't do until turn 6, and then finish it off with some sort of millstone effect. So this is a bounty I'm fully happy to try to get, but we're going to give this a 1 for the average deck. Disdainful Stroke. It usually finds a target, but I don't like to play them main deck. More so in Sealed we're going to play this than we will in the draft, but definitely picking these up for the board.
Yeah. It's kind of in the same spot as it always is.
I think this is a 2.
Yep.
You can play it. It'll always find a target if you have the room. If not, it's a pretty easy, straightforward cut. Echo Inspector, a 4-mana 2/3 flyer. When Echo Inspector enters the battlefield, connive means you can loot and give it +1/+1. It becomes a 3/4 flyer that loots for 4. I'm into that.
Yeah. Yeah, nothing bad to say about this card. If you get this reliably as a 4-mana 3/4, great. If not, you get to pitch a land and hopefully turn it into something relevant.
Yeah, agreed. If you're pitching a land, then you're happy. If you're pitching something else, great. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like a 3.
I also have it at a 3. All right, we have the Errant Street Artist, a 1-mana Flash Legendary 03 with Defender and Haste. You can pay 2 to tap to copy target spell you did not cast. So that is going to be all of your connives. No, not connives. Casualties, thank you. I keep getting those two things confused. You have to have a fair amount of casualty to make this worth it. It's human might be irrelevant creature type.
So now I can pay 8 mana and a 2/2 to get an extra 3 cards milled.
Yeah. That's true. You can do that. This will be okay with cards like my preview card, which lets you casualty 2 to make an extra 4/3, so then you can just copy that on the stack without actually having to do the thing, which is kind of nice. I would say I'm probably running this, because an 03 for 1 is a nice blocker. Probably running this with like 4 casualty effects.
Yeah, this card is fine. It's not a bomb. You'll stick it in your deck because there's no downside, really.
Yeah. So we're going to give this like a 2, and I think it's going to get cut most of the time. Even the score, X blue, blue, blue. The spell costs blue, blue, blue less to cast. If an opponent has drawn 4 or more cards this turn, draw X. It's instant speed, which is interesting. A lot of instant speed draws as a mythic. What do you think, Yanks?
I think this card is pretty terrible. 4 or more is a lot of cards. Now, granted, they get their draw step, but they've got to find 3 more cards. So, yeah, I guess if you're conniving a lot.
I just kind of didn't care about the first part. I was just thinking X blue, blue, blue. Like, is that a card we run?
No. I don't think so. I don't want to pay 7 mana to draw 4 cards. Or 6 to draw 3.
Yeah, I mean...
And I love drawing cards.
I don't think I want to either, but if my deck has, like, next to no top end, if I'm just thinking of this as, like, a 7-drop... I feel like if the deck has room, like in sealed, if I'm trying to, you know... Oh, actually, this is a 3-color format. So I'm far less likely to want to play this than if this were a 2-color format. I feel like I would just be happy to throw it in as a 7-drop that just draws me a bajillion cards at the end, sort of like those like big the 4-color haymaker things that you kind of run sometimes. You know what I'm talking about? Like the white spells?
Yeah.
Just kind of feels like that, but in a 3-color set, less so. Not super happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, you are trying to play it pretty late, so as long as blue is your main color in a 3-color deck, you're probably still okay to get to triple blue, but yeah, it's not the easiest to cast.
Yeah, certainly not. That said, I don't hate it as much as Yanks. I think I'm going to run this in most of my sealed pools. And if my blue deck has no other card draw, like if we're running real light, then I'm probably running it. It's like a 2.
I might run it in most of my sealed pools because this is already eating up a rare slot, so my sealed pool's probably not very good.
Facts. All right. Yeah, it's like a 1/5 too. Expendable Lackey, a 1-mana 1/1. For 2 mana, you can exile this from your graveyard, create a 1/1 blue fish creature token. With this creature can't be blocked, activate only as a sorcery. Huh. Can I just like sack this and then get a fish that's unblockable? That seems kind of neat.
Yeah.
I'm kind of into this card.
It's got a great name, too.
I'm kind of into it. This is like a 2/5 for me.
Yeah, it's a citizen as well.
Yeah, human citizen. I'm into it. 2/5.
Yep,
I don't play a lot of 1-drops. I tend to hate them. Fairy Vandal, 2 mana 1/2, flash flying. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, put a +1/+1 on Fairy Vandal. So this is your connive payoff uncommon. I like this.
Yeah, this card was good, and I'm liking what set it was in. Was it Eldraine?
Yeah. Was it called Fairy Vandal?
Yes, it was in Eldraine.
Okay, I like the art that they actually made it like tagging. It's very cute. It's like pink and purple.
Yeah, no, it was a good card there. There's plenty of ways to draw some cards in this set, it seems like, with connive everywhere. At least in the blue, in the Obscura decks. So
yeah, this is like a 2/5 in any deck, probably. You're going to have some card draw mechanics, and a 1/2 flyer that can flash is always going to be valuable.
Yeah.
All right. All right, we have Hypnotic Grifter, 1 mana 1/2. For 3 mana, you can connive. You can loot and get a +1/+1 counter if you do the thing. I feel like more often than not, this is just going to be a way for me to pitch my land at the end of the game, or... Yeah, because I feel like I'm not going to want to be pitching permanents if I already have 3 mana and have extra turns to be doing a thing.
Yeah, I think the only scenarios where you're not doing that is if you like play this on 1, hold up some sort of counterspell or something on turn 3, and they don't play anything. Like, oh, I'll free connive.
And you don't have another fourth land in hand or something, and you want to actually pitch a thing.
But I think you're right. For the most part, it's just going to be dump lands at the end of the game.
Yeah, so, I mean, that said, I do like those kinds of options that allow you to do that. If this had flying, I'd be on board. But the fact that it's just kind of a 1/2 that's going to dirtle and likely not do anything, I think I'm more interested in a more competitive 2-drop than this in the typical deck.
Yeah, I actually like this card because of just the concept of it's not a great early play, but it's fine. It's going to trade for a 2/1 or hold off a 1/1. Nothing exciting there, but it actually is a cheap curve filler that you can sacrifice that's still relevant late game.
I agree, and that usually is my kind of go-to. I just don't know that I like the stats on this well enough to consider it that. Like, I'd rather have like a 1/3 for 2 mana that does the same thing. That's what we typically see. I'm just not impressed with it as a 1-drop.
Yeah, I mean, compared to the card we just saw 2 cards ago, I like this more.
The card we just saw 2 cards ago.
The 1/1 that makes a fish out of the yard.
You like this one more?
I don't think there's worlds between the two, but
I like Fish Guy a lot more. Interesting. All right, I'm going to give the Hypnotic Grifter a 2. That said, I gave the Lackey a 2/5, so I definitely think this is playable. I just,
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm still in the 2/5 range like I was with Lackey, but I'd take this over it unless I had a very focused deck that wanted those synergies for Lackey.
Yeah, I think that the Lackey being able to sack for the ability in the set is just so much better, and then replace itself with something that's actually a pain in the ass. The second they have to use their removal on your unblockable fish is going to be a great day. Ledger Shredder, 2 mana 1/3 flyer. Whenever a player casts their second spell each turn, Shredder connives. I like this. This seems great.
Yeah, I mean, stats on its own are good. You only need to get 1 trigger out of this, and you're really happy.
Agreed. I mean, honestly, a 1/3 flyer for 2 mana, I'm already like playing it.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty common for, I mean, not rare, obviously, but
it is literally pretty common.
Yeah. I think we're okay with this as like a 3/5?
Yeah, I think so.
Majestic Metamorphosis, a 3 mana instant until end of turn. Target artifact becomes a 4/4 angel artifact creature and gains flying. You can draw a card. Target artifact or creature becomes, okay. The fact that it replaces itself, I like that well enough.
I usually hate these type of effects, but the fact that it turns something into a flyer is a big deal.
Yeah, and honestly, these type of effects haven't until the last set really come with card replacement, which actually makes a huge difference.
Yes.
This is going to get around some of the burn spells, it's going to get around combat tricks, it's going to get around a lot of stuff. And at the end of the day, it can still just kill someone with a flyer at the end. It can, you know, just cycle itself if need be. There's nothing wrong with this card at all. I think this is reasonably playable.
Agreed.
I actually think that this is like a 2/5 playable, which is pretty good, but it's going to be a really easy early cut.
Yeah, I think I still have this at a 2, but it's, you know, I'm not actively looking to cut it like I might have used to been.
Yeah, I might give it a 2/5, but I'm going to cut it like it's a 2 probably. Make Disappear. That's a good name as well. Gosh, the flavor. We have a 2 mana instant with casualty 1, counter target spell unless its controller pays 2. And then you can just like ramp that up if you've got some human tokens. Oh, okay, well. I'm not usually a fan of counter spells that only make your opponent pay 2, but in a pinch, if you need it, you can do more. More interested in playing this with Bant, I suppose, but what do you think? Yank something in 2?
Yeah, you can play it if you need a 23rd playable, but these counter spells are never exciting.
All right. Obscura. Initiate. We have a 3 mana, 2/2 flyer. For 2 mana, it gains lifelink until end of turn. Great. So we have Wind Drake stats plus an ability that you can trigger sometimes.
Yeah, seems pretty good to me.
This seems like a 3.
Yeah, it's a citizen as well.
It's also super easy to activate with the hybrid mana.
Yep. Yeah, this whole cycle of initiates are nice that way.
Out of the Way, a 4 mana instant. The spell costs 2 less to cast if it targeted a green permanent. We've seen this cycle. Return target non-land permanent and opponent controls to its owner's hand. Draw a card. Huh. So at its worst, it's like the draw spell that you could kick to draw, you know, the bounce spell that you could kick to draw a card as well. It's like built in, but then it's got a reduction in it, and you don't have to pay 2 blue, which has been a thing. So this is actually something I like way more. Sometimes you could just bounce it for 2 in a pinch if you needed to, but we almost always wanted to kick it anyway, so you tend to like try to hold on to it.
Yeah, I think I prefer that flexibility, but I think this card's still very good.
Yeah. And one of the colors you tend to want to bounce the most is often against green.
Yeah, because it's an opponent controls. If it was anything, then a lot of times you want to be bouncing against white or blue because of the lockdown enchantments. But
yes, then you'd be bouncing your own stuff. I was thinking like combat tricks they tend to be one of the things I want to be bouncing out of. And green creatures tend to be like more expensive.
Yep.
You want to be bouncing those things to tempo them out, so this just becomes cheaper, replaces itself. I'm always super high on bounce spells, probably too high, but I think this is like a 3 for me.
Yeah, I think this is a 3.
I'm always playing 1. I will likely try to play 3 because I am dumb. All right. We have a 3 mana 0/3 with flash that says when it enters the battlefield, connive. No, thank you.
I'll pass on this.
No, thank you.
If you've got a deck full of like 8 fairy vandals, then okay, maybe. But that's about it.
When we have a 5 mana 3/2 that when it enters the battlefield, it connives. When it connives this way, return up to 1 target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Okay, so we have a built-in bounce mage.
Yeah. It's a really awkwardly worded, but it has to be worded that way.
Yeah. Someone said Into the Royal, and yes, that was the card I was thinking about with the kicker
Blink,
spell. Thank you.
Yeah, blink of an eye. They're both the same card.
Into the Royal was the one I was thinking about. I forgot about Blink of an Eye. So we saw this recently with like the wizard ability, right? With like Dominaria, when you control a wizard, costs 1 less. You can bounce for 4, same stats. But you didn't get the connive ability, which is really useful no matter whether or not you're, like, regardless of whether or not you're getting the +1/+1 counter. You could be pitching land to smooth your hand. You could be trying to dig for land. You could just get rid of an excess spell you're not going to need and make this a 4/3, which is quite large for a blue creature.
Yeah, I mean, this card's fine. They're just, putting this in every set at this point, right? This sort of mana war type creature with X theme or mechanic in the set on it that makes it more expensive.
Have we been seeing one of these in every set? We saw the rogue in the last one, I suppose.
Yeah.
This card feels like a 3 to me. The bounce creatures tend to be better than they feel like they will be because the tempo is real strong.
Yeah, I think it's probably a 3. Might be a little worse just because I do like these things to be much cheaper. I'd rather just have a smaller creature or not have the connive and make it cheaper, but
I liked the wizard one that could be reduced.
Yeah.
I think that's better than the connive, but
agreed.
This does seem to be a slower format. 3-color wedge formats are also, just historically slower. So I think the extra mana won't be too difficult. Public Enemy, 3 mana aura. All creatures attack enchanted creatures controller each combat if able. Creatures attack enchanted creatures controller if able. When
so you play this on your own thing.
So you play this on your own thing to force them to attack out?
Yeah. I mean, you would never want to play it on their thing and force your hand.
Yeah, and then you draw a card when you block with the thing. Okay.
Yeah, it's like a board stall breaker.
Of course, it allows you to get good blocks. Wow, this is situational so much.
Yeah.
I'm not into it. I'm really not into it.
No, this reads somebody trying to be a card in EDH.
Yeah, agreed. I give this like a 1/5.
Yeah, I think it's a 1. I can't imagine a scenario where I'm putting this in my deck, even out of the sideboard.
I can imagine big green beasties versus big green beasties, and you want to be able, like, you get into a big board stall game 1, lots of creatures, lots of token generators against anybody who's pooping out a bunch of dudes to like a max capacity. I'm pretty happy to just like land my 3/3 and then force them to have to attack with their 2/1/1s every turn so that they can't build a max capacity of it. Is kind of the only scenarios, like against the citizen deck I'm probably playing this.
Yeah, I think if I played 1,000 games of Streets of New Capenna Limited, I would never play this card.
Okay. I'm guessing out of 1,000 I will play it twice out of the board. Reservoir Kraken. We have a 4-mana 6/6 with trample and ward 2. Please let this be a really big downside for the rest of this text. What in the Jiminy Christmas is this? At the beginning of each combat, if this is untapped, any opponent may tap an untapped creature they control. If they do, tap this and create a 1/1 blue fish creature with this creature can't be blocked. Huh?
Yeah, it's like a variation on Desecration Demon. The 4-mana 6/6 flyer in that case, and with an ability that your opponent can activate to stop it from attacking.
That wasn't Desecration Demon. The 4/4 flyer? Are we thinking a different... I might be thinking a different creature.
Yeah, Desecration Demon from Return to Ravnica.
Okay, I'm thinking a different one. This seems nuts. I was thinking that this was very similar to the giant troll from like Eldraine, where it like made the goats and you could sack your goats to tap their creature. But this is just way better because you just get other things that they can't deal with.
Yeah, although they can do this they can, unlike that where they ran out of goats, this they can just keep doing as long as they have something.
Yeah, but then you
But
keep making blue fish and kill them.
Yeah.
So they run out of goats that, you know, like, this just makes the situation worse and worse. Each time they do it, it's like real bad. No, chat's asking, do they pay the ward cost? No, because the ability doesn't actually target the kraken, so they just do the thing and it removes it from being able to attack that turn. But then you get the fish, and then you just attack them with one fish, and then you attack them with two fish, and then you say one fish, blue fish, and they scoop up their shit.
And they play something that deals 1 damage to everything, and you cry.
And you play this on turn 4? Like, you just... And then it's got ward 2, so they can't kill it for several turns. So they're going to give you 3 fish, and then they dump all of their mana and their premium removal spell on your 4-drop, and then you just, like, eat them with an army of fish. I'm into it. This card seems great. I'm going to give this... With the ward 2, I'm tempted to just give it a 5, but it's like a 4 or 5?
Yeah, I mean, the card's great. No argument there. I got it as a 4 or 5. It is missing. It should have at some point had to create a red fish just for the Dr. Seuss rhyme.
Yeah, it should say specifically that it makes blue fish and red fish. A blue red fish.
Alternating. Or they alternate.
Yeah.
So you get red fish and a blue fish, so you can make 1 fish, 2 fish, red fish, blue fish.
And then it makes 2 fish.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. We're wasting way too much time.
There'd be no copyright claims there.
All right, rooftop nuisance, a 3-mana sorcery with casualty 1. Tap target creature. It doesn't untap during its controller's untap step. Draw a card. I didn't used to like these effects, but they seem to be getting better and better, and they're drawing you cards now. That said, it's not great. It's like a 23rd playable if you've got the room, but it gets its value.
Yeah, I really don't like these effects as sorceries.
Agreed. Oh, I didn't see that. It's like a 1/5. I assumed it was an instant when I read it because that's what these typically are, but you're right. All right, moving right along. Run out of town. We have a 4-mana instant speed. The owner of target non-land permanent puts it on top or bottom of their library. I like these kinds of bounce spells as well because it doesn't cost you a card, but I think I would rather the one that draws me a card than this. Thoughts?
I agree. But I think this card's still good.
Agreed.
It does, not that you would want to do this, but it does allow you to target your own stuff in a pinch. You know, like late game, if you only have one big threat, and they can kill it, you can save it. I mean, you've cost yourself a draw, so it's not good, but it is a little flexibility.
Agreed. I think this is like a 2/5.
Yep, agreed.
All right, security bypass, 2 mana for an enchant creature that says, as long as enchant creature is attacking alone, it can't be blocked. Enchant creature has, when this creature deals combat damage to a player, connive. Ooh, I like that. It has, I don't usually like enchantments that don't really protect themselves or get their value when they ETB because you get 2 for 1. That said, making whatever unblockable can end games very quickly, so that makes it a little bit better. And then you tend to want to cast this when you want to connive that turn. Getting a replacement card right away kind of does make this playable. So if you're playing this on like your solid green creature with an extra mana in hand, then you're getting your value, I think, if you play it in a cautious way. What do you think, Yanks?
Yeah, this is a card I will probably almost never play. And I will definitely lose to a number of times.
Yes, this feels like my Simic card.
Be very irritated when I lose to it.
Mm-hmm. These are the kinds of things you have to play sparingly. And oftentimes what I'll do too is I won't play this card. And then I'm like, they didn't have removal in game 1 and board this in.
Sure.
Is the type of thing that I don't think people do enough. People either see this and say, oh, it can win me games, and then play it when they shouldn't. Or there's people who say getting 2 for 1 is too bad. They don't play this, and then they don't look at it ever again. But let's say you're playing, you know, your 3-color deck, whatever, and your opponent is in Selesnya bodies. This becomes a very playable card at that point, which...
People play Selesnya?
Yeah. It was good last time. Oh, whatever.
It's curious.
It was good in Kamigawa, all right? So I'm going to give this like a 2. I think it's borderline playable in any deck if you have the room, and then just play it sparingly. Sewer Crocodile is 6 mana, 4/6 that says it can't be blocked this turn for 4 mana. This ability costs 3 less to activate if there are 5 or more mana value among cards in your graveyard. It's kind of a weird ability.
Yeah, we've seen this a couple times. I mean, I guess it kind of fits with the connive, right? You can fill your graveyard with things. You can get a land in there fairly easily, so that's a 0 for the mana value. You know, we see these like big toughness blue creatures that, you know, have some form of unblockability or for too much mana usually, although this is a little cheaper than most, as just like a one-of finisher in decks.
So I think the ability on this is a little cheaper than most, but the cost is more. Usually we see like a 3/5 or something that costs 1 or 2 less, and I like those more. 6 mana for me, this is a little on the steep side.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to be thrilled with this, but I've got no problem playing one of these.
Yeah, I'm hoping I don't need to. If my deck has no other top end, I don't mind playing one of these. I think this is like a 2 in rating, but I'm hoping I do have like one substantial creature, you know, maybe not even in blue and whatever my other colors are, that I think I would like to play over this.
Yeah, I think it's a 2. I do think this set's probably going to be a little slower than recent ones because of the 3-color nature, and this will be better in sealed.
Sleep with the Fishes. God, blue's so good. 4 mana for...
Wait, someone clip that.
What?
Blue's so good.
With flavor.
yeah, you didn't say that. Just someone clip the blue's so good.
No. Blue, that's incorrect. 4 mana for Enchant Aura, enchant creature. Sleep with the Fishes enters the battlefield, tap enchant creature, and you create a 1/1 blue fish that can't be blocked. Enchant creature doesn't untap. Great, it's a lockdown spell. It's a little bit more mana restrictive because normally it's like 4 mana, 3 colorless, 1 blue. This costs a little bit more, but you get the fish. I'm into it. I like this.
Yeah, you get the fish. It's harder to cast. It doesn't tap it, right? So you have to play this on a tapped thing.
Yeah, it does. Tap enchanted creature.
Oh, tap enchanted creature. I was looking to see. Yep, nope, ignore me. I was used to seeing that as part of that second clause.
I think getting the fish is more than worth the extra blue pip.
I agree. No, I agree completely.
Like, this is a 3/5 because we typically give the lockdown spell a 3/5, but I actually really like these fish, and I'm tempted to give it more, but I'm not going to, but I really like these fish. I think they're going to be very good.
Yeah, I'm with you on 3/5. Yeah.
Slip out the back. God, they're all so perfect. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. It phases out. It doesn't flicker, so you're not getting your ETBs. It's a +1/+1 counter that phases out, so you can't use it as a combat trick. So you're using this as like anti-removal plus a gotcha. And you can't, like, you could phase out their creature in a pinch if you needed to, but then they get the counter. I'm not super into this.
I think it's maybe a sideboard card against a deck with a ton of removal, but that's about it.
Yeah, this is like a 1/5. If it was a flicker spell, I'm more into it, but nah. All right.
Agreed.
Undercover operative, 4 mana for an XX, I'm assuming. We've got a shapeshifter rogue. You may have uncover operative enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature on the battlefield, except it enters with a shield counter on it if you control that creature. I like this. it gets rid of all of the downside of these types of shapeshifters where you have to actually have a creature on board, making it a terrible top deck, and gives you a little bonus if you do manage to cast it on your own creature, giving you that incentive. So yeah, this is a great card.
Yeah, 4 mana for the best thing on the battlefield, and sometimes better than that because of the counter.
Yeah, agreed. Is this a 4?
I think it's a 4.
Great. Wing Shield Agent, 3 mana, 2/3. When it enters the battlefield with a shield counter on it, when it attacks, up to one other target creature gains flying until end of turn. I'm into that. So it gets like a free attack. 2/3s are sometimes difficult to deal with. So yeah, I'm okay with this card.
Yeah, it's interesting because we usually see that ability on a flyer.
Agreed, and it's always in white.
And it's always in white, yeah. So I think this is definitely worse than those.
Agreed.
But yeah, it still gets you right. You still get the 1 attack in.
Maybe more. I give this a 3. I give it a 3.
I think I've got it as a 2/5. But yeah, in the same ballpark.
Yeah, I think it'll be quite relevant. Wiretapping, we got a 5 mana enchantment with Hideaway. Whenever you draw your first card during each draw step, whenever you draw your first card during each of your draw steps, draw a card. Then, if you have 9 or more cards in hand, you may play the exiled card without paying its mana cost. I had to read that twice because it seemed a little jumbled.
Yeah.
What are you thinking, Yanks?
5 mana spell that requires you to get up to 9 cards in hand to get the Hideaway. Now, granted, you're still getting to draw 2 cards a turn. Is basically what you're paying for. So, am I going to pay 5 mana to draw 2 cards a turn? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, agreed. I'm basically reading this as like the Hideaway just doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And if I'm drawing two cards a turn, it's not very likely I need more cards. So yeah, I think I'm playing this. I don't think that it's, game breaking at 5 mana.
No, but if the format is slower and grindier potentially, then this is very good.
I think this is a 3/5.
Yep, agreed.
Witness Protection. We have a 1 mana aura that says creature loses all abilities, becomes a green-white citizen with base power and toughness 1/1. Named a legitimate business person.
It's kind of great.
It's kind of great. It's cheap. It makes it lose all of its abilities, which is the important part. It's very cheap. I think this is a 3/5. I'm into this card.
Yeah, it deserves, even if it was like a 3, it deserves the half point for a legitimate business person.
Yeah, it cripples the creature's abilities to do any illegal activity, and it is just a 1/1.
Yep.
All right, guys, that is the end of our blue. Thank you guys so very much for watching. Leave us a comment down below. Let us know what you guys thought of the color and how it's going to play out in the set. We'll see you guys in the next video for black. And Yanks, thank you so much for joining us.
Anytime.
See you guys in the next video. Bye.